Hello everyone, it's Oliver here and I'm back with Rob here to continue this series of Terminator commentaries, and this time it's on Salvation. Now this is the extended cut, which is only about 3 minutes longer than the theatrical version. Most of the new scenes is when Marcus meets Blair and saves her from some dodgy guys in the wasteland. Now Rob, you recently rewatched the film, having not seen it since its theatrical release, is that correct?
That's right, yeah. Only the second time I ever saw it, the other day when I rewatched.
Oh right, okay, so during that space of time, do you think you've kind of warmed to it a bit more on the second viewing?
To be honest, it was a very similar experience in that I sort of came away a bit frustrated that they didn't do more with certain things, but at the same time appreciating a lot about it.
Okay, cool. Excellent, excellent. So folks, you can enjoy this podcast by itself, but you can sync it with your own copy of the film on either NTSC, DVD or Blu-ray, and putting the timestamp to 0 and pressing play now. Now, I saw this, obviously when it came out, I was still a projectionist. You know, the trailers were unfortunately quite revealing. They spoilt a bit of the movie, where it reveals that Sam Worthington is a sort of cyborg. And the same problem would occur with Terminator Genesis, revealing John Connor was also a kind of a Terminator, which I recall the director of that film being furious. But directors have no control of the trailers anymore. I think Ridley Scott even commented on about Prometheus trailer, saying, well, I have no control over if things are spoiled. I think it's the studios being desperate to get bums on seats, isn't it really? Terminator 3 was produced by Mary Kazar and Andrew Vanya for that C2 Pictures. That company, I think, went bankrupt, and they sort of sold the Terminator license to Halcyon Company, who didn't last long either.
This is the thing, isn't it? You make a Terminator movie, you go bust. It's happened to every single company.
Isn't it? It's interesting because they still make a lot of money, but they just cost a lot to make. That's the thing, and trying to market it and all and so forth. But Mario Kazar is apparently still credited on this, but he had no involvement with it. But yeah, Halcyon just made, I think, the Terminator TV series at the time, Sarah Connor Chronicles, and disappeared after that. So I think it's gone to the other company that I can't remember I think they produced some of the Star Trek films, I think it was. But McG directing this time after what was it? I mean, I think most people were a bit baffled why he was chosen to direct after, because I think most people just didn't like the Charlie D'Angels movies, and he did music videos and didn't seem like the right fit. But I don't know, he seemed to do a pretty good job on this, all considering.
Yeah, I mean, the problems are more script related than director related, definitely. But he is. I don't get why the studios are so willing to do this. I mean, what about McGee's CV suggested he was? I mean, I think even Christian Bale said this, didn't he? There's nothing in your CV that suggests you're going to do a good job here, and there wasn't, frankly. So why the idea that he likes the Terminator and the studio responded to that is kind of, I don't know, it seems a bit weird.
It does seem very weird. I think he just had a really good pitch, and a good vision for it, and probably had a bunch of concept art produced to sort of say, "Hello, I can do this," And it's shot in New Mexico, so I recall reading that McG doesn't like flying, so he must have drove from LA to New Mexico or something. I'll get the train. But obviously the film opens with Sam Worthington, who at the time, we hadn't seen Avatar yet, but I think the talk of the town was he was going to be a big lead because Cameron had chosen him for Avatar. This came out 2 years before it, but I recall not being entirely impressed with Sam Worthington's performance in this.
This was that brief window of time, wasn't it, around 2009, before everyone realised how dull Sam Worthington is. But it's a difficult job that he's got here, to be fair. He should really be the focus of the whole movie, to my mind, this character. It should be his story, his adventure. And I think originally it was, before the rewrites that resulted from the script leak. I think also Christian Bale's signing, which meant that John Connor had to become a far more central figure. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's just... It's not his fault, though, really, is it? I mean, what we're introduced to him signing up to be a RoboCop because he's in death row. Our hero's on death row, and we don't even know why.
Well, yeah, I think a crime that had gone wrong, and he took the blame. I think, and interesting, he signed that release form to Cyberdyne Systems, which no longer existed in this timeline, right? Because this is 2003. It's set.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to offer much on
No.
the.
But yeah, so it was, you know, the Skynet software was then in the hands of the military who developed it. It was going to happen anyway, but it was still, in this version, it's still Cyberdyne. And then it sort of jumps forward to 2018. As I mentioned earlier about Avatar, yeah, you think you're right. You mentioned 2009. I think that's when Avatar did come out. But I think at that time Sam Worthington had done, well, I think probably shooting around the time of Avatar was Clash of the Titans, which didn't do
of course, yeah,
particularly well critically. I think it made money because they just post-converted it to 3D. It was a terrible 3D conversion, one of the worst, I think, many criticised it for. But, I mean, I've seen Sam in that Unabomber TV show. They did, it's on Netflix for a while, it got removed, but he's superb in that. But it seems like he's not really tailored for an action star roles. I think he's better with more sort of dramatic roles.
I haven't really seen him in much, to be honest. I've never seen any of the Avatars, and this is what I sort of know him from primarily. And like I say, yeah, it's a bit of an underwritten character, and I think we'll probably end up talking a fair bit about the rewrites and so on, which is ironic that happened in the first place when we think about it, because they were worried that the twist was ruined, and then they just put it in the trailer anyway. But sure. I can't help but think there was a much more interesting character under the skin here. Because what is more interesting than a cyborg who doesn't know he's a cyborg in a movie that's designed to investigate the difference between machines and humanity, the line between what it is that distinguishes us as humanitarian humans rather than machines. And for him not to really do anything.
Well, that was the thing you said to me before recording this the other day. You sort of revisited the film and said, what is this film saying? And I thought maybe originally it was about having trust within a machine. You know what I mean? But also it's some sort of a redemptive kind of arc for Sam's character Marcus to sort of, he's been perceived as a bad guy and he has to save the day. He has to. I suppose he's somewhat he knows his past, but he doesn't allude to it that much, does he?
It's a strange. It's probably a bit early to get onto this, but it is a strange film when it comes to its humanitarian aspects, ultimately. But it's not a strange film when it comes to its action aspects, which scenes like this, and this is awesome. This is so good. This sequence.
Lots of one take sequences, isn't there? Especially when Connor gets on the helicopter and it takes off and a nuclear bomb goes off, and he gets taken down. And this is all still one take.
It is, and it's really, really clever filmmaking as well, because you've got all the like famously there's miniatures, all the satellite dishes are miniatures, aren't they? And then you've got the studio foreground, the CG matte painting background. You've got close up, like the shot of the helicopter landing down on the Terminator's endoskeleton skull. As a close up, a second after we've been watching details happening in the distance. All one shot, all one shot.
Yeah, and I love like the design now where we see where they've got people trapped underground. They're doing experiments, but it doesn't feel like it's a human built facility. You know what I mean? So because when you see it at the end, it seems like Skynet has just occupied an existing building and kind of used it to retrofit things. But this feels like a machine would develop, perhaps.
Yeah, and it's also kind of got that old Dark House thing going on as well. They're creeping about and things are jumping out at them from nowhere, and things live in the water. That's a great idea, isn't it? I'm not sure it makes any sense at all, but Terminator, machines living in the water.
And they're giving you at the moment a colour palette which is very reminiscent of Cameron's Future War. You've got the blues and the reds here, but obviously once we find as the movie progresses, with quite a lot of daytime stuff, it becomes this sort of somewhat of a monochrome kind of movie where they've zapped a lot of the colour out, and it was a.
This is before they pressed the black and white button.
Yeah, and it sort of looks very similar to what films were doing at the time with the Book of Eli and The Road and Death Race, which came out the year before.
Yeah, they all came out around the same time, didn't they? No, because I mean, The Road has a huge influence on this. I would guess it would appear to be anyway. Cormac McCarthy's The Road
And Mad Max.
and Mad Max.
Yeah, they do say it's very, very, very Mad Maxy.
Well, no, you can't make a future set movie, especially post-apocalyptic future set movie, without being influenced by Mad Max. Really.
Yeah. I love how they see the plans in motion for the T-800, and it's got like, I love the graphic. It's like a really buff Arnold. It's like an action figure style one. So everything's a bit excessive with the size. I love it. But this is like, they're playing on the idea that over these years, John Connor has been right about a lot of things. So he's seen as this kind of messiah, isn't he? Figure where still the elite or the people in control don't believe him, and they don't have faith in him, and they obviously ultimately die, don't they? Because they don't believe his spoutings, as it were. Yeah,
and there's some complications there as well. I feel like because the thing is that we're getting ahead of ourselves, but the thing is they're right at the end of the day. That the command crew on the submarine are the only reason they end up being wrong is for information they and we don't have, which is the twist. But yeah, we'll get to that.
It's a twist.
I do like the look of this a lot. The look of this particular post-apocalypse. I don't even mind the colour grade, to be honest, but it's not quite like anything else. Somehow it's a much richer, bigger post-apocalypse than we've seen before.
Oh, definitely, because often the case was with these movies we saw that dealt with this subject was often just a small town and stuff, or generally just a wasteland with a few remaining parts of vehicles or a plane or something. And Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome would have showed this kind of destroyed city at the end, just as miniatures. But this shows you when Marcus walks into LA, this is a destroyed city, and it looks amazing. The visuals are stunning. And as we were talking about the one shot sort of action sequences, this again here is spectacular. You see them get in, take off all in one shot. It's a massive step up over Terminator 3, which we'd complained looked like an expensive TV movie.
Yes, yeah. It's such a sharp turn away from Terminator 3, and that's not a reason to say it's a good movie just because it's Last Jedi syndrome. At least they did something different. Doesn't mean it's any better, but
True.
This is a really good idea. It's just a great idea, and it looks great, and it's, like I say, there's just that frustration that none of the characters are particularly well developed, to my mind.
The shame of recasting all the time with John Connor, so you're not invested in that same actor and his performance. It's always a different performance. And Eric Stahl was such a wet blanket in Terminator 3. You don't think he's become this guy. Yeah,
it's hard, isn't it, to imagine Stahl grown up to be Christian Bale.
Yeah.
And this is one of the first of many. A pet peeve of mine in Hollywood action movies in general is the ability of things to take other people by surprise when they're clearly making a lot of noise or already in your eye line or something. The classic is the helicopter that just appears out of nowhere. Like, you can hear a helicopter coming from freaking miles away. But if there's a little embankment or something, then it will roar up from behind it 10 feet away from you without anyone else. And throughout this movie, clanking, massive, heavy machines appear from out of nowhere in a completely open landscape where there's no sound to conceal them or anything.
I do like in this one, they do show you these sort of the Terminators with the rubber skins, which you don't see in their original form. It's just like they're all battered, and it shows you it's an older model. Is it T600s?
T600, I think it is. Yeah, they're like 7.5 feet tall ones, aren't they? That are really bulky.
See, Bale straight away, once he starts talking in his Batman voice, it just like he picks up the thing, goes, it's a bit much, Christian. You be saying, God, tone it down a bit.
He's an intense guy.
He is, isn't he?
Intense in his movies. He's Mr. Intense.
He is one of the best actors out there. You know, I think Mark Kermode sort of jokingly thought, because of Bale's outburst on set that was leaked by the sound one of the sound recording guys around the time the film was released, to sort of maybe do some damage to it. Mark Kermode thought Bale had just realised he was in this movie and just snapped. Da, 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 da. You know, all that stuff he did. It was so funny.
It's just like it's really making me think of the orc birthing scene in Lord of the Rings.
It is, isn't it? It is.
Uruk-hai birthing.
The Uruk-hai, you know.
So you might have to help me. I don't quite understand what was it Marcus, Sam Worthington's character, isn't it?
Yes.
So at that point there, he's just been turned on or released, or has he been conscious prior to this scene? Do we think?
No, he was never conscious. He's just woken up after 15 years.
So the destruction of the facility turned him on somehow, or woke him up somehow, and
perhaps because this is all part of Skynet's master plan. It's revealed at the end that he's to infiltrate.
We're calling it the master plan, are we?
Yeah, the master plan, which is fatally flawed, to bring John Connor to Skynet so they can kill him. But they can kill John Connor any time, because he seems to be, their base of operations just seems to be not, well, you know, they're operating during the day. They can just
it's like an aircraft hangar, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like, it's very convenient. It's all convenient to the plot. That's the thing. I mean, this bit here, I mean, it's also shows that John Connor has no fear, just jumping straight into the ocean to swim down upon a submarine. God, imagine jumping out of that and suddenly having massive anxiety attack and panic attack, and just like, no, I can't do it.
I love how ridiculously over the top the waves are as well. I didn't notice this until but look at this.
Look at that. That's a little bit unrealistic, I would say.
And before he jumped, he just sort of says something like, "Tell them to come get me," or something. And then just jumps for what?
Yeah.
Come get you where? How long are you planning on holding your breath for?
I do love Michael Ironsides in this. He's even when he's in a piece of schlock, he knows what he's doing, and he always delivers.
It's such a shame he's got all four limbs, though. You can't put Michael Ironside in a post-apocalypse movie and leave him with both arms. It's not right.
Have you been rewatching Starship Troopers?
It's all of them, though, isn't it? There's a clip on YouTube of I think there's 4 different.
Yeah, Total Recall, Starship Troopers,
The Machinist with Christian Bale, which is not, I suppose, not technically post-apocalypse, but might as well be.
It's a very depressing film, that isn't it? It's freakish seeing him so skinny.
I was wondering. I meant to look up when that was released, because he's still pretty skinny here, isn't he? But he's made Batman in between them. I think. Yeah,
this is either just before or after Dark Knight, I think, isn't it?
I think it must be after Dark Knight.
Yeah, Batman Begins was 2005.
Or sorry, certainly after Batman Begins. So he's lost all the weight for Rescue Dawn and The Machinist, then bulked up for Batman, and then slimmed right back down again, I guess, because these people, unlike Michael Ironside, are starving.
Well, yeah, because I think The Machinist was before this. I think it was a year before.
Yeah.
I still got a 35mm trailer of that. Bizarrely, really? Yeah, I grabbed a bunch of trailers years ago from when I was a projectionist.
I went to some weird cast and crew screening of that randomly. I didn't have anything to do with it, but there were tickets floating about. Oh, Christian Bale, brilliant.
This film's depressing.
Jesus, didn't know what I was in for. It's such a Michael Ironside role, this, isn't it?
Oh yeah. A figure of authority that, you know, is difficult to back down on what he wants, you know. Caris, you know what he says. You know, obviously Yelchin, you know, who's obviously sadly passed. Actually, when I reviewed this film a bunch of years ago, so it's. I mean, he was really good casting as Kyle. You know, I remember at the time people being like, "Yeah, we could see him as a sort of Michael Biehn kind of somewhat looks similar in some places, but
yeah, physically he's I think you mentioned in your retrospective he kind of looks a bit like him, but I really see it. I think he's very, very plausible as the problem. Maybe the thing is this movie's all meant to be all about humanity, all about saving mankind, but we never really see anything worth saving. We're not shown humanity being human or humane. We're only shown humanity fighting for survival. That's our one trait. There are no scenes of, like, for example, a couple of scenes between John Connor and his wife, who we're about to meet, doing, a moment of tenderness between them, a moment of hope, a moment of doing something human, of playing a game, or just something, because as it is, we're meant to be looking at the difference between machines and humans, and the way all these humans behave, there really isn't one. Anton Yelchin, his character, is the only real sign of humanity in this movie. Humanity in terms of people doing human things. Humanity takes its place when Marcus decides that he's going to sacrifice himself to save mankind. That's one type of humanity. It's the type of humanity where you actually see people being human. We're given a reason to care. We're given a reason to think that they should survive and they deserve to survive for their humanity. And it's really weird that John Connor here is this robotic, like, emotionless thing. Where it feels like he's someone who wants to beat the robots. That feels like his objective, not to save mankind. He wants to beat the robots. He wants to make sure he's born. He wants to get them before they get his dad at a push. There's no sense that, he's trying to save something organic and beautiful and unique that the machines are trying to destroy.
Interesting.
So that's my little rant on the humanity side of things.
I understand completely. Like, I mean, as we say, with Marcus, you see that humanity right at the end of the movie when he decides to save John. But as you say, with Carl Reese, I mean, I think
that's what Star is there for. I think, by the way, I think that's what that Star character is there for. It's so that Yelchin's got someone to protect.
Yes. There is an emotional angle to it on a sort of very basic level. As you say, there should have been more somewhat intimate moments about somewhat their feelings or their situation they're in, where the Connor we're seeing is kind of he's really paranoid at this point in the timeline. So maybe if they'd had the paranoid sort of Connor come number 2, because it's supposed to be a trilogy, right? A new set of films, and I would presume logically we'll get to the third one where it's the future war we've seen in Cameron's one, where you've got the laser guns. Oh, sorry, I love this shot here where he sees LA.
Yes,
it's such a good shot.
And this environment in general, actually, this little location is great stuff.
Oh, really good stuff. I think with Bale, I think he's. I don't think he really fine tuned what he wanted to do with it. I think he's still in this. I think his backstory is just this angry man who's very paranoid.
Yeah,
and you can't really do much out of that to sort of extend the runtime.
Yeah, that's the extent of his character, and that might be because the script had to be changed because it was leaked, and it was originally going to be much more to do with Marcus and Yelchin's character and Star, in which case that sort of one-dimensional John Connor makes a lot of sense as a minor character who I think was only really meant to appear at the end. The paranoid, angry John Connor within that dynamic makes a lot more sense, but when he becomes center stage, without the character being developed, and that takes focus off of these characters who are the humane heart, then yeah, maybe that's where the problem comes from.
And we're seeing a Carl Reese, who is thin, unlike Terminator Genesis, where they send a roided up man who's been living off rats apparently.
Well, I suppose you could argue that each movie changes the timeline in subtle ways that, mean something, maybe. I don't know.
I don't think anyone would be super buff in this future.
It doesn't make sense.
You cannot get the protein to sort of give you that body mass, as far as I'm aware. This is all a great setup. This is all a great set piece. You've got fantastic miniatures here when the hunter-killer flies over. And I do like the sort of the rusted nature of the machines. Everything's very black and burnt. And even these ones here, it's all like old tech somewhat. It's like this war's been going on for a while now,
Yeah, and there's a sense that, I suppose it ties into the whole humanity thing, that they've just, those T-600s, they've been set off on their mission, and then that's it. They're just left. They're ignored. Cyberdyne are just they're just there until they stop functioning.
Yes.
And they're being replaced constantly. In fact, they're being replaced. This is something else I didn't quite grasp. So there appear to be two completely new types of Terminator in this movie, because it's the T-800 is brought online during the movie. But then there's also this Marcus cyborg thing. So is that just two parallel projects that both happen to come to fruition at the same time? Is that what
he's a prototype, isn't he? Like the T-1000 would be. So he seems weirdly more advanced than the T-800s. Where he's still, I don't know. I mean, I
suppose he would be if the T-800s are in production essentially now, and he's a prototype for the next one down the line. But then that should be the T-1000, shouldn't it, based on T2 history? But it's minor importance.
Because he's got like a human heart, which is really strong heart, which is protected. But he's still, at this point, he doesn't fully know his capabilities, because I presume he still sees with human eyes, so he doesn't have this interface to zoom in on things, like Crichton. How do I zoom in? I just pull it closer to you, the picture,
Can he get Jazz FM on his left nipple?
I suppose the human aspect, extra element, is the camps where they've rounded up everyone to either be exterminated or to use in the factory, which we don't actually see anyone being used in the factory to build things. I think he said in the Carl Reese said in the first films that they round up a small number of people to continue working to facilitate Skynet's plan. I was never too fussed about these like snake-like Terminators. I mean, it's a great like practical prop they've created, but it just seems I don't know.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem to fit within the remit of what we've seen with Skynet, because and also you've got the motorbikes as well, which are just modified with Skynet kind of bits on it. It
is. I don't think it's been as well thought out as the first two movies were in a lot of ways. But these ones do beg the question: what were they made for? Because if Skynet are trying to wipe out mankind, well, we're not going to be scuba diving in ponds, which is what these things seem to be designed for. So it's a bit like, what haven't we had before? Well, we haven't had water Terminators. So, and I like it in the scene earlier on, in the having a big Terminator living underwater. In that's kind of cool. But just releasing a bunch of them into the waterways of the world to eat any humans who happen to wander into a river doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But it's fine. It's just that it feels like it's okay. Well, we need an eel-like Terminator, don't we? Because that's what we're going to have.
Well, I do like that, the motorbikes that could be ridden by a human as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's
it's like they should build them with no seats,
And you actually say in your retrospective, you say it's like it reeks of someone important being a big motorcycle fan, and that's exactly why they're there. There is in the making of video that's on YouTube. McGee literally says, "No, I love motorbikes, so I wanted a motorbike in it." That's not a good reason to. And Christian loves bikes too, so.
Oh yeah, I do like as you sort of get to the next big action sequences, is the giant machines that basically round up all the humans. That's really cool. I mean, I think again that sort of turns up out of the blue.
That's one of my favourite. Completely out of the like 10-story clanking machine. You'd feel it from miles away. But it's like the Iron Giant. It just leans in and plucks it. There's constantly people getting plucked out of their environment by...
Oh, we got a little bit of backstory for Marcus that he can repair things.
Yeah, what? How? Why? What is it? This is another thing we don't like. And he's an expert with the weapons and stuff as well. We could really do with knowing why. What is this? Was he in? Presumably, he was in the military. I think it. He seems like the sort who was in the military.
I'm sure he's some sort of mechanic or something. You know, that was, you know, if he can fix cars, he can fix anything.
Yeah,
you know?
he can fix a radio. Just in time for John Connor. So many plot contrivances as well. Not only can he fix the radio, he fixes it exactly the moment that John Connor starts speaking to the world.
Or maybe just down to the fact that Skynet have given him these extra bits of knowledge.
Of course,
yeah. So
maybe
it's like the Matrix. So you just go, "Oh, I know kung fu," straight in your head.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't know why he can do these things. Still, just a line saying, "I don't know where I've got this knowledge from," or something like that would be...
exactly. This is that during that period where it's got the teal instead of the sort of a cold blue. It's more of a teal look. This interestingly, like T3, distributed in America by Warner Brothers and over here by Columbia TriStar, Sony Pictures. And you can get this film in 4K over here, but not in America because Warner Brothers haven't released it. But it's during that decade where things were rendered out in 2K. So with a 4K version, you know, this film is going to be an up-resed. Yeah, because even though this is before digital projection became a thing, it was still a 35mm print. That would have a 2K copy on it. Which is, again, it's a bit of a shame because they've... You know, that resolution is sort of stuck within that, unless they got to go back into the thing and render out the visual effects in 4K.
That's it, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. We've talked about this before, haven't we? Though in 2009, these VFX would have almost certainly been created in 2K and rendered in 2K and shot onto film at 2K. There won't be a better version of them than 2K.
Yeah. This is all Super 35, this film. So they can still... Those all the stuff without visual effects could still be, still look great.
So I don't know if I mentioned this when we talked about this when we were on this subject before, but when the X-Files was released HD, it's all HD, all the episodes HD, apart from the establishing shots of buildings, which are all still SD. And I don't know if that's because they're stock footage or because it's a different source, but somehow they weren't able to access the original elements for those establishing shots.
Well, this is also a little bit to demonstrate, to fool the audience that, he could be human,
Ironically, I didn't actually remember that he wasn't fully human, and I didn't rewatch the trailer, so unlike everyone watching this in cinemas at the time, the other day rewatching this, I didn't know that he was a machine.
Oh, right. So did the surprise work on you then? You're just like, oh... Well, this does have the flying little drones like you see in T2 3D. You see I forgot what they were called now, but I see in a 3D presentation of the short film they did for the Universal Studios, where you see Arnie grab them and just sort of throws them against the wall and stuff. And but these are somewhat not the same design, but they do look very familiar, so it fits within that. Okay, this is what Cameron created with this future war and Skynet's weapons and so forth.
Interestingly, I read Cameron saying that he felt that McGee had been too faithful to the original two movies, that he hadn't sort of gone in his own direction enough, which I suppose in certain regards you can understand that, but he framed that by talking about how much he changed things up for Terminator 2 compared to Terminator 1. And I was thinking that's a strange take, because T2 is kind of the same movie, really. you know, and this is a completely different structure, you know, it's a completely different concept.
And a completely different story as well. It's not repeat, because, you know, T2 and 3, you know, do repeat the first one. With the sort of, you know, again, being chased by a Terminator.
Yeah, yeah.
We still love us. We all still love T2, but, you know, inherent sort of like, yeah, you're kind of repeating yourself, you know,
Well,
but on a massive scale.
Yeah. It just goes to show you don't have to have a completely original idea if you do it really bloody well.
Yeah. It's interesting, the promo stuff for Terminator Genesis, where I think Arnold was making fun of Salvation. I was just like, dude, you should shut your mouth, mate. You've just been in Genesis, all right? You know, this is far better. You know, I love Arnold, but he does come out with some bollocks sometimes, doesn't he?
I love that he often tells that story about how he used to threaten his children if they didn't behave, he'd make them watch Red Sonja. I've always thought of all the movies he made, why is Red Sonja the go-to?
I'd probably make him watch Raw Deal. That'll bore the crap out of him.
Or Hercules.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or Batman and Robin. Junior. Do you want to see me pregnant? It's like, no. It's like... I love this bit. He just pushes him out of the car. I'm driving.
There are a lot of questions raised about, as there always are when someone is revealed to be a robot or a cyborg or something, about how he doesn't notice his superhuman strength until he starts using it. Things like that. And also the fact that he must weigh 5 times as much as significantly more anyway. Well, I suppose maybe it's clever polyalloys he's made out of or something. But you create so many potential problems that you've got to solve when you reveal someone to be an android or something, and it doesn't seem to tackle any of them.
Would he feel like he's got really heavy legs? You know, it's like trying to walk. His
brain's reprogrammed, but the minute he sits in that Jeep and the suspension on one side collapses, you'd think that, you know, there's hundreds of little moments in which you know it should be apparent that he's made of metal.
That seems like a comped shot.
It does, doesn't it? But then that's a real, like, they did build all this, didn't they?
That's interesting. 7-Eleven. That's obviously where he meets the other group of people, where the elders there want to sort of help the child, and then suddenly I can't remember, was it just a Hunter Killer X or something? I don't know the names of these things half the time. They're always kind of the same, really. It's like the big robot's like something you see out of a manga.
Yeah, it's a big Decepticon, isn't it, basically?
Yeah.
The scene that they have to have in every post-apocalypse movie.
Oh, yeah. Fighting over cans of food or something. These are my baked beans.
I love how this, because these guys look pretty hardcore, frankly, don't they? They look like they were potentially an outfit already, and it's just this old white lady's in charge of them. It's
someone's mum. Everyone has respect for, because she's a good cook or something. I don't know. But I do like the idea they've got different pockets of resistance. When, you know, Carl and Star are the only ones who are kind of protecting LA. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot to cover, you know.
Because it's not very long since Judgment Day, is it? I don't think we're ever told exactly, but I think that the insinuation is that Star was, well, in the original screenplay anyway, I believe that Star and Yelchin's character, his name, it's Kyle Reese, isn't it? Star and Kyle Reese they were meant to be much more similar age, and they were apparently from the same daycare centre. They were both kind of kids, and they've aged a few years, but not many.
Okay,
I don't know if that's the case still. But
I was under the impression that Carl Reese had grew up in the war, so he wasn't aware of what things were like before. I think Genesis, though, they kind of fudge that, where it happens when he was like a child or something, and John Connor finds him, from what I remember. But
I mean, it's probably different. You know, the mythology of each movie is probably different, but there's all kinds of subtle continuity problems, aren't there? But I don't think there's anything that's massively outrageous to my mind. His robot ears are hurt. He's hurt his robot ears.
My ears are popped. Oh!
That is so a shot with a guy about to get hit by a car or something, wasn't it? The framing of that, and it's everything about it.
I love the sound it makes as well. It's a good sound design in this. I mean, the guy who edited this did Terminator 2.
Yes, yeah.
Conrad, I think it's Conrad Buff or something like that. But T2 was edited by three editors. One was Mark Goldblatt. I'm not sure. I don't think Mark contributed to this. Must double check. But
there's quite a few people hired on Cameron's recommendation, I believe, including Sam Worthington.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Because his grade in Avatar is great. It comes out like, well, he's all right. He's a bit wooden. I say it sounds better at the more dramatic stuff, I think, actually, than actual action movies.
He's good at the intensity.
Mm.
It must have been a nightmare trying. How can we not make this look like a Transformer?
Just remove it. Just remove its head. That's what, and they're done, right? This is all very Mad Max now, isn't it?
It is. It's like, yeah, big, expensive version of Mad Max.
Can't really escape from that. I mean, what I like about the action in this, we're not seeing... You got sort of steady cam stuff or shaky cam when people are sort of running, which is kind of natural and happen in an action film. But there's a lot of good static stuff where the editing has a good rhythm to it. You're not seeing things don't appear like jumbled up or confusing. Everything makes sense with how the action's choreographed.
The orientation is always clear. Yeah, it's really, really, really good at that. Underrated. I mean, it's like properly impressive. It's so nicely shot as well. It's just, I don't know, when the camera is moving, it's just perfect all the time.
Make it that wide.
And it's real.
Good stuff. Yeah. And that's why I think the movie's aged extremely well. Even the CG stuff I think it's really good. I think by this point ILM had really nailed the sort of the lighting and textures on things that are basically robots and metal. It's just it always kind of works quite well. And even by the end where Connor's fighting and Marcus is fighting the T-800, it looks superb.
Yeah. You can't underestimate, I think, the how far the budget went in that respect. I think that's probably why it's aged so well. They had, because 2009, even earlier, that you could do all this stuff completely convincingly, except perhaps for the uncanny valley of the human rendered characters like the T-800 at the end of this. But all this kind of stuff, you could do this easily if you had the time and the money. That was so often the reason a shot, a computer-generated shot in particular, doesn't look convincing isn't because they couldn't make it convincing. It's because they didn't have the time or the budget to.
Right.
And obviously this had a massive budget, didn't it? This was a really expensive movie.
It's clear that they had the time, though, didn't they? They weren't... I mean, I think, as you mentioned about Uncanny Valley, I think that when you see Arnold for a brief moment, it doesn't look great. It's got that sort of weird softness to the skin and rubbery look to it, which was like an issue that Tron Legacy had. It was a bit too... and maybe Benjamin Button as well. That sort of point where it's not quite realistic enough. And I remember going to... a discussion with a bunch of effects artists, and they talked about the Uncanny Valley issue, and your eyes can clock it straight away. It doesn't look real, and that's the thing with AI generated images now. It's just all scattered all over social media, and people are like, "Oh, this looks great." I'm like, dude, someone just typed something into an app, and it's produced this crap image, and they all look the same.
Yeah, I think even now, I'm seldom convinced by, and I don't have the best eye for VFX at all, but I'm seldom convinced by human renders in CG. It's, you know, it's been done a bunch of times recently and it still doesn't look quite right. To be honest, I thought Arnold looked a lot better than I remembered.
I recall Downey Jr. looking brilliant in, I think it was Iron Man 3, when you see a younger version of himself.
Is that CG or de-aged?
I think it's de-aged.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's de-aged with CG, but it's it's a big difference because it's in the subtleties of the performance as well as the detail of the render, whether or not just it moves like a human, but whether or not it moves like Robert Downey Jr. and Arnold Schwarzenegger move.
I suppose maybe the somewhat muted colour palette has actually benefited the compositors, the 2D stuff, to hide things,
and the lighting as well. It's quite dark, that scene, because you get that pan up Arnold's body, and his whole genital area is completely in shadow for some inexplicable reason. I find that more weird and off-putting and unrealistic.
Maybe he's all well. In Terminator 1, you see his winky kind of flapping around, but he's all smooth like a Ken doll in this one, maybe. But Marcus, he saw his junk flipping around at the beginning when he comes out of the bunker or whatever it is,
McG likes the winkies.
I love that they've kind of still used the red lighting in there for the sort of production design look of the original.
They do like just picking out a bit of red here and there in the greys, don't they?
Yeah, you've got to put in a little bit of colour now and again, but it just becomes a little bit of a beige nightmare of just This is a. When I remember seeing this, it kind of reminded me of Independence Day, where they've got those fighter jets going down, getting chased by the alien spacecraft flying through the mountains, and stuff like that. It sort of seemed somewhat familiar.
Watching this the other day and had forgotten that he was a cyborg, I remember thinking, that's ridiculous. That'd have broken every bone in his body, that smash into the water. But really, that should have been my clue. Common, we still had a shot of Common. He doesn't get much to do, does he? I really like him in the things I've seen him in. He's great in a TV series called Silo. And really liked him in John Wick 2 as well. And playing the kind of character he does in those two, which is not dissimilar to this one, is really good.
Oh, he has a fight with John Wick, doesn't he? A lengthy fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a brilliant scene. Yeah, he's good in that. Yeah, he's kind of... It's interesting. It always makes you chuckle that when someone just is known by one name, like Cher, has got Common. People be like, who's Common? And McG as well.
McG,
just a silly name.
McG is a ridiculous name. I mean, he's called something McGinley or something, isn't he?
It's Joseph McGinty Nicole.
Okay, yeah. He's such a... I don't know. He's such... Seeing him in the behind-the-scenes footage and so on, he's just such a unit of male director. You could just switch him out for anyone, and the stuff he's saying and the way he's acting and so on. It's just...
He's a bit dude bro when they get a shot completed. I saw that bit. I was like, oh, dude, his enthusiasm is a little bit too much. Maybe for the British crew, because they're too cynical. But I think he really went above and beyond my expectations as him as a director, because Charlie's Angels was just such trash that made money, and seeing this was just like, well, yeah, he's clearly a fan of the franchise and he's doing a good service to it. It's just unfortunate that the script has a little bit too many kind of contrivances and the ending, the Skynet's plan is just bullshit. But
I mean, plot contrivances are never the end of the world. It can be fun to point them out and something, but it's not. I mean, when you stop and think about it, most of the movies we love are full of completely implausible plot contrivances.
Of course,
but it's for me the only real problem here is this like there's an actual moment of human connection there, which is so rare. It just wanted a bit more of that, and I think even that can come. The problem there might just stem from the script issues, as we were talking about.
Well, yeah, because I suppose that Blair is, again, like Carl Reese, has, large chunks of humanity left within her. She's not become this drone herself.
She's a good character, actually. I mean, it's a stereotype, and it's very one-dimensional, but I do like her.
Mm. We've all got very clean teeth in this future, haven't they? Jet white teeth. Look at that.
Did you know there's a prequel? I'm sure you do. A prequel movie based on the video, or made using the video game, about her character.
Blair. Well, I've got the Terminator game, Terminator Resistance, that was set. Well, it's kind of Terminator 3 in the future, where you play like a random character. But I can't remember if Blair's in it. I did play it not long ago, but
the video, I don't know which.
Is it the video game that came out around this time? The Terminator Salvation video
game? Yeah, because she does the voice as well. The Moon Bloodgood does the voice. It's called Terminator Salvation Machinima or something like that.
Oh right, okay.
And it's a feature-length movie voiced based on her character doing some sort of mission. And uses, I think there are several other actors from the movie, not Christian Bale or any of the main ones. But it's basically just the whole movie is made using in-game footage.
Okay.
And it's feature length. It's meant to be perfectly good.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, took six episodes.
Yeah, it's a web series that was cut together into a feature-length movie.
Was it released on DVD? Yeah, as well. I've never saw.
No, I'd never heard of it. It's
cinema,
literally it's a Terminator movie, and officially feature-length. I had no idea it existed.
What? Oh, I should have watched this before doing this commentary, because people would be like, "Oh, Oliver, I've seen this." It's like, hell no. Oh yeah, it's on. Yeah, you can watch it on YouTube. There we go. This is kind of the slightly extended bits. Obviously, one of the first extended bits we saw was when they went in the base underground. That machine came out of the water. That's actually an extended cut.
I read somewhere there was more with around the scene where Carl Reese meets Marcus and Star. Those three first get together. I read there was more there, but
a couple of little tidbits of stuff. Yeah, there's not, because then it's only 3 minutes of time that's been added.
It's a PG, wasn't it? PG-13.
Oh, 12A.
12A in the UK, yeah, PG-13 in the US. Are you allowed boobs in a PG-13?
I think so. I don't know, actually. No, you can have one F. You can say the F word.
You're allowed an F word. There's certainly back in the 80s you were, because there's a lot of boobs in Beastmaster, which inexplicably wasn't R-rated. I love post-apocalypse movies. There's always a scene like this as well, and it's usually in some sort of sports arena as well.
It's a good fight set, He stabbed him with that, was it a Phillips screwdriver or something?
Yeah, she is. I fell in love with Moon Bloodgood a little bit, to be honest, rewatching this the other night. Don't like this scene.
Moon Bloodgood. That's again a very, very strange name.
That's a pretty cool name.
Yeah. It's a stage name, isn't it?
It was funny. There's a like a little video on YouTube behind the scenes of her being trained to fly the jet, or being instructed in how jets work by an actual combat pilot, and hearing this like really hard-nosed combat pilot keep referring to Moon It's just ridiculous somehow. These are two worlds that should never come together.
There was a bit where she gets, sits close. Another little clue to his, he could be a robot. His heart is just like thumping well loud. I don't know. Well, that wouldn't give him anything. Just maybe he's got high blood pressure. You probably think, he's like really warm or something. Should he be like really cold? I don't know.
Oh, God. We've got new neighbours, so I apologise if their dog is irritating.
I can't hear anything. So.
It's just me. It's driving mad then. What's he doing now, Sam Worthington? Because I've not seen him in anything since. I haven't even heard of him other than Avatar.
It's just an Avatar, isn't he?
I suppose
I'm sure he's done something else.
It takes about 8 years to film each one of them, so he probably doesn't have time for anything else.
Well, yeah, because it was like he had fallen off the radar for a bit, and then suddenly he's in Avatar 2, which again makes like 2 billion. So he's like top of the list again in terms of actors. But I don't know. Even though he's in these really popular sequels, can he demand more money? I suppose he can. His agent can. He's the most successful film ever made. Yeah, but everything else he's made is it stinks. To a certain degree. I don't know. He was in an action film, I think, with Arnold. I can't remember what it's called now, but one of those sort of later Arnold action movies which are really forgettable and crap.
It's like there's a whole generation of particularly male actors who, if they didn't get on the Marvel bandwagon, they kind of got left behind a bit and forgotten a bit, and because Marvel hoovered up so much of the attention and created so many of the big movies, if you've not got a recurring role in that franchise, like who's the guy who plays Hawkeye? I can't remember his bloody name now.
Is it Jeremy Renner?
Jeremy Renner and Sam Worthington are kind of interchangeable in my mind, to be honest. And they broke at the same time, made the same kind of... you can see them in the same roles. And Jeremy Renner should have been forgotten about at least as much as Sam Worthington has been. But because he's... maybe that's a flawed theory, but...
Well, it's often the case, like, these actors, like, in these big Marvel movies, but when they do something that's not Marvel related, the audience don't really follow.
Exactly, yeah. So it was Quentin Tarantino's theory, isn't it? That it's not them that's the star; it's the character they're playing.
Well, that falls down to we don't really have film stars anymore. I mean, especially people still consider Tom Cruise probably a film star because he's still,
If he isn't, who is?
Well, George Clooney. You say he's a film star to that degree where people would go. I don't know. Again, Clooney does smaller movies that don't really do a huge amount, but films that he's passionate about. But I don't know. We don't have it. Like it's not like back in the day where Jack Nicholson or Brando or Al Pacino and De Niro could sell a movie. I think Tom Cruise still sells a movie.
Yeah,
that'll run out soon though.
Yeah, up to he's up to a point. I mean, the last Mission Impossible was a bit of a disaster, wasn't it? I think financially.
Yeah, it was. Again, they're doing something different by splitting it into 2 films, aren't they?
Yeah.
So the plan now works, doesn't it? You've now got the signal, which again is all part of the plan. You see, to basically show Skynet where the humans are, the resistance.
Too good to be true. So this is like the one, or maybe it's not the one scene at night, but the whole. They can only move at night, they can only do things at night, and then the entire film takes place during the day with everyone just running about in broad daylight.
That was my kind of beef when I reviewed it. It was like everything takes place during the day. I suppose it's well, technically. I mean, you could argue that Sam Worthington doesn't know these rules, so he's out about it during the day. Where John Connor
True,
is very much. But he attacked that base during the day. It's supposed to do everything by night. But yeah, when you see the nighttime stuff, it's not the nighttime we've seen before. It's very much a, I don't know, it's really got a mix of oranges and browns and black. Really, it doesn't really. Again, we're seeing somewhat more of the Cameron look, but again, it's not the blues, it's the teal.
It's the teal.
Fucking teal.
I love the teal. The irony is that the main reason that teal is so popular is because it works so well with skin tones, but they've drained all the skin tones out of the faces in the scenes with the teal. So
that's just, I was recently watching David Fincher's Mindhunter, and Fincher's always applies a lot of this kind of greenish kind of filter to stuff, but once you do that, it does make the people look somewhat sickly. It makes their faces look more yellow. So
you can't do it to their faces. It defeats the object, apart from anything else. There's a really nice shot earlier. Well, it's not a nice shot. It's just a really nice colour scheme where you had a close-up of John Connor on, I think it's the bit where he's on the radio, and the background's out. It's just like an out-of-focus blur of teal, but his skin tones are really popping. And it's a beautiful combination of colours, they're complementary colours. It looks good for a reason.
Obviously now, I think you figured it out, wasn't it, Rob, where he was a cyborg.
But this is what an idiot I am. When this happens...
Like a massive cog sticks to his leg.
Despite all the clues, despite having seen this before, when this happened, I thought, he's got a fake leg. He's got a metal leg and he doesn't know it.
Thunk.
I am the worst person in the world at seeing plot twists and reveals coming. So it never happens.
I was getting flashbacks now, isn't he? This is again in the trailer. I'm just like, oh, you silly buggers,
Why do they do it? Have you ever asked anyone why? Anyone in the know?
No, I've never spoken to any sort of trailer companies. I did apply for a job years ago at a company that produced trailers, and you had to submit like your own trailer of a film, and whoever get the job based on their editing. I think I was apparently told I came close, but this is like years ago before I got better at it. But they were just all about working on Avid, and didn't really say much about, because they're just various companies around the world who just get hired by the studios to provide the marketing, right? And it's the same ones. There's a great film report from the early 90s where Barry Norman talks about these companies that produce posters. And that was that sort of period where it just became the actor's face slapped all over it, which is not great, Like Mission Impossible 1 poster, that's a silhouette of Tom Cruise, I mean, Arnie was very, I suppose forward-thinking by just focusing on him, like the Terminator and the Commando poster. That's all you needed, really, to sell it.
Yeah, that's a poster with a very specific job to do, and it does it.
Yes.
Rambo as well. It was generally just
Rambo 3's got a great one,
Yeah,
just Stallone like sideways. But
brilliant.
You've got all the helicopters and the tanks and stuff, and this looks fucking great.
There's a Turkish Rambo ripoff which replicates exactly the pose that he's in that poster.
He's still like, it's again, Bale just couldn't find another voice to do outside of being Batman, But Bale's not like to a certain degree, he can only do a certain number of voices. I think he can with his type of voice, isn't it? I mean, in Ford versus Ferrari, he's very much calls upon his own British accent, but a bit more Cockney, I suppose, isn't it?
Isn't he? I thought he was a Brummie in Ford v.
Is he Brummie? Yeah, Brummie, maybe Brummie. Yeah, maybe you're right. But he's Welsh, isn't he?
He's Welsh by trade, but
yeah,
like a lot of Welsh actors, doesn't seem to want to use that. Actually, well, no, because most of them have generally kept their accents. But I've never heard him speak in a Welsh accent.
No. But if you But a lot of the time when he's interviewed, he'll put on an American accent.
Yeah.
And even to recently, when he won that, did he win a BAFTA or a Golden Globe or something for his performance as, is it Dick Cheney or something?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's, I don't know, but he did his English accent. Everyone was like, what? It's like, everyone was, a lot of people were baffled why he sounded English. It's just like, we see the interviews for this, he puts on an accent sometimes.
Yeah, it's a bit Cockney, isn't it? It's a bit of a Mockney accent that he does. Oh, there's the testosterone in this scene. Look at the goodness. You know they mean business when the contrast's ramped up that much.
That in there, it's not a Terminator, it's a RoboCop in there.
What is Bryce Dallas Howard doing in this movie, man?
Yeah.
What is going on? It's such a...
I suppose he's kind of, she was popping up in these kind of big movies, But she's, become a really good director, hasn't she?
Yeah.
It's probably some of the best episodes of Mandalorian,
Yeah, she's dead good in general, but this is the most she's literally just there to be a target for other people's exposition.
Yes.
She is literally just an exposition dump.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like the character that was in T3 with Claire Danes.
No.
I know they had asked, because Mario Kazan, when he still had the Terminator license or the rights to it, Dorothy Mostow they're still in talks to do a fourth one because they had been contracted to do sequels, Eric Stahl and Claire Danes. But I think because it was set further in the future, they had to look older or different in some way. But it's only 15 years. They're not going to be aged that dramatically. So maybe that's just down to, I think, people's feedback. This wasn't the John Connor they wanted from Eric Stahl's performance. This is down to the writing as well. But
can you imagine Stahl playing this version of John Connor? It would be, and also someone of Claire Danes' status at that time would presumably not have signed up for such a small role for the the optics reasons. So I would love to. Someone should build a John Wick style action movie around Common. He's got such a great air about him somehow. He's got such screen authority, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
He looks so comfortable on camera.
Because he looks like he can kick the shit out of Keanu Reeves in John Wick 2.
He's just awesome in that scene. It's one of the best scenes and characters in any of the John Wick movies for me. All of his stuff, actually. I love the dramatic environment that they're in here. It's just so over the top. I mean, what is this facility? Is that really the most practical place to have him? It's so cinematic. That's all the skin gone from her hands.
Oh God, yeah. As we get to, they utilise those snake-like Terminators in the moment, don't they? When he escapes through the landmines, the entrance to their base. It also shows that the Skynet is kind of operating around there, but they're not actually sending in any waves of Terminators, which they could, again, they could have done any time and just dropped a nuke on this whole site and taken them out.
It gets really difficult, doesn't it? How do you have a large base, given how kind of omnipotent Skynet is, how do you have a large group of resistance fighters anywhere close enough and relevant enough to Skynet's base for them to be doing anything and make it believable? And normally what happens in a situation like this is that they'll say something about how, well, we're no threat to them, basically. So Skynet's not actually that bothered. They kill us when they see us, but it's not. And if they'd done that, if they'd made it out like that, it would have been, I don't know, it would have made so much more sense of everything else. Because like you've said a few times in your retrospective and today, if Skynet's whole objective is to kill John Connor, then why nothing makes sense, because there's so many opportunities to do it and they just choose not to.
Is it the fact that Skynet clearly knows of John Connor, right?
Yeah.
And Carl Reese.
Yeah.
But initially it wasn't. They never knew. It was just John Connor had defeated them, but they'd sent a time machine, a guy through time, to stop John Connor from defeating them. So the information they know is only being derived now because it's been extended, and thus he has stopped them at certain points, maybe, of progressing. But that's with all films that deal with time travel or events in the future, the more you think about it, it just becomes a bit of a bugger's muddle where you just get a bit confused. And
the problem at the heart of it is there's a paradox in John Connor's very existence, isn't there? Because how can he have sent, if he doesn't send his father back for him, but then who sent it? But how did? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't. Yeah, it's a classic time travel paradox right at the heart of everything.
But also, what happens is once James Cameron's out of the equation as any sort of creative on this, these become fan movies, don't they?
Yeah.
And out of all of them, I think this is probably the best of the fan movies, but it's still, has the problem with dealing with baggage of the past and the future, sort of tell a coherent sort of story that again adds more to the mythology of Terminator. And because this plays it very straight, there's no real humour in this movie.
No,
it's very straight laced, and I think that's maybe somewhat to its detriment, that it doesn't have any moments of comedy or humour, because they went a bit too far with it, number 3, because Arnold had listened to feedback and knew people loved the sort of the humour between him and young John Connor, and people wanted more of that, but they went a little bit too far with it. But this tries to avert any of that.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree entirely. It's all part of the lack of humanity thing.
Yeah.
And it's Yelchin's character, Carl Reese in this, is inevitably vaguely humorous. Anton Yelchin is always vaguely humorous. So you can see how if he was meant to be a more central figure, I think that I can really see where that could have worked with the completely humorless Marcus teamed up with the sort of chilled out, slightly daffy and incompetent Carl Reese at this stage. But yeah,
well, maybe as I said earlier, where John Connor is in this, he's paranoid and angry. You could argue that it is justified for him to be in this, where we see in the future where he begins to, he has a larger army and takes down Skynet, where he's far more controlled, has more wisdom as a person. Because all we see of him in T2 is just that little shot of him just surveying. A stoic, yes. And what Carl Reese has told Sarah in the first one about, it's just this kind of legendary guy. So he's not really a character, is he? So it's been difficult come the sequels where he's an older gentleman, where you having to sort of fan theorise how he should act. So that's, I suppose, everyone in their own mind has their own interpretation of John Connor, and this John Connor we're seeing from Bale is his and the writers, that doesn't quite gel with what we perceive him as. But maybe we're perceiving him as an older guy who's far more in control and a stoic.
For me, he fits with the character we see briefly in T2, that stoic, because he is stoic and he is a man of fewish words and human, and that all kind of makes sense. But the problem is that's not a main character in a movie. It needs to be more than that if he's going to be, the joint lead, which he effectively is. As the original plan, him just being effectively a cameo in the last act makes more sense.
Yeah, it does make more sense, actually, yeah. And I think we alluded to earlier, was that you can't have an entire movie with a guy who's paranoid and grumpy for that and shouting a lot. It ends up becoming not probably a fun character to hang around with, you know.
But
for the runtime.
Shot that explosion is incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
It is funny though that they're talking about in one of the making of documentaries or like the featurettes I saw online, that they're talking about how the giant transformer machine belches all this black smoke because there are a lot of talks of environmentalism at the time, and there are a lot of environmentalists on set, and wouldn't it be great if we could sort of imply that Skynet are poisoning the world, that they don't care about the world, and McGee got all excited about that because he's an environmentalist. Cut to the biggest napalm explosion ever filmed. It's like, Jesus, you've just wiped out masses of organic life with one of the most destructive, poisonous substances on Earth, just because it looks better than doing it CG.
It looked like something that you see of Apocalypse Now, wasn't it?
I think that's clearly what they're referencing, isn't it? It's the famous Apocalypse Now shot. Come here, Hood! It is just intensity, the movie, isn't it? I think for Bale's for John Connor to be this kind of cold and inhuman almost would be fine if it was paired with Marcus being the opposite, or maybe if it was him out and about with Kyle Reese. That could be a good double act as well. But it's because both of the male leads are, you know, they display no humanity whatsoever until until the very end.
They know what you are, even if you don't. Enough! That gun ain't gonna stop shit. Nobody shot you in the heart, and I see that thing beating a mile a minute. Kyle Reese! He's in Skynet. You do that, he's dead. I can get you in.
This is kind of like trying to show that Marcus has a bit more of a human side with his performance, but I think it's just like the writing in terms of and what Sam is doing. It doesn't seem to demonstrate that range that he could show. I don't know, more of a human side. But you're dealing with a guy who's, you know, who's a criminal and who's sent on death row. You know, he's not gonna. I know the backstory of Marcus, that he was kind of, I think maybe took the blame for something else, but.
But what you see, this is another confused thing. Normally we would accept that he was the innocent victim in that scenario. Like maybe it's a Con Air type situation where he was defending himself, but due to his ability, he killed and he didn't want to get, and so on. But he's also saying he doesn't deserve a second chance, doesn't want a second chance, he deserves to die, which doesn't really gel with. I don't know. Is he what sort of person is he? We just don't know. Is he a good guy or not? And it's not until he realizes he's a machine that he seems to really care about anything.
What are you?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Especially when he's kind of faced with Skynet and Helen Bonham Carter, where she reveals the plan. He's just like, all right, okay, I'm gonna throw this chair at you and try and save the day, you know. And I do love how they've sort of, when you see it later on, they've kind of reset him, you know, they've sort of repaired all his skin and stuff.
Yeah.
He's gone through that sort of Terminator 2. Do you ever see the avatars where you get this endoskeleton, you put the gel in, you push it down.
I saw it in your video, actually, yeah.
It creates the Terminator, right? So the skin, it's gone through one of those.
You showed a clip of Stuart making one as well, and it just being a complete mess.
Yeah, this doesn't really work that well. I mean, as a kid, I always wanted it for the Terminator 2 one, but the novelty of it would wear off after 2 goes.
Yeah. You see, this is not a secret base that a worldwide network of computers and machines can't identify and do something about.
I think this is a good performance here, with the sort of the arguing of what the mission is. But I think I said in my reviews, when it's seen in context, it doesn't quite work when you put it into something else.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
When I did the opening trailer, you've got these great, I suppose, trailer fodder lines with the music there to sort of give it that emotional weight, because it's not scored here, so
it doesn't feel earned to me either. To me it feels, it's just a personal view, and I'm not saying I'm right or whatever, but to me it feels like both of our main characters have done a complete left turn in the last sort of 5-10 minutes. They've both started behaving in a way that there's no logical reason for them to, or based on what we know about them so far. I think that the whole point here is kind of, I guess, meant to be about John Connor being the humane one, going, we can't kill all those people. This is the nub of the movie, isn't it? The difference between us and them. We care about these people, and that's why we can't do it. But none of it's been set up. It's not been set up that Michael Ironside is the kind of heartless leader who will happily wipe everyone out in order to get his way. It's also not been set up that he's actually wrong. Based on the information these characters have at this time, Michael Ironside's the one who's right. John Connor's, they've got a chance to actually end this war. Based on what they know, of course the hostages they happen to have, they're collateral damage.
Well, Connor's driven by this because they know Carl Reese is there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
if he doesn't save him, he doesn't exist.
But that's not humanity. That's selfishness. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. There's no sense that John Connor desperately wants to save mankind. The sense is that he wants to kill the robots, wants to kill the machines because they made his mum crazy or whatever, and he needs to make sure he's born. So yeah,
he's turning crazy as well, down to his mother's influence, and that paranoia's kicked in. But as you're saying, it's not. It's how we sort of perceive it, right, and what we think the level of humanity in the movie is, and is it justified or is it not really there? And it feels a little bit kind of ham-fisted. I think it's ham-fisted is probably the I suppose the correct analogy of this kind of the direction of their characters and their motives, maybe.
Yeah, it feels like the screenplay was either not developed enough or got to the sweet spot and then got overdeveloped by all the inevitable producers and opinions involved, and so you end up with something very basic.
Well, this obviously because this, I think it's after Dark Knight, because Christian Bale had brought on Jonathan Nolan to rewrite it.
Oh, really?
So because he obviously had co-written it, Dark Knight, with his brother Chris, and Jonathan went off to do his own things like Westworld and Fallout, which he's a brilliant writer. He's obviously clearly more sci-fi obsessed than his brother Chris, Well, he did Interstellar, but I mean, but yeah, this would, we'll get to the bit where the bits they changed, but then people have criticised the Nolans for not really having the emotional edges that people want from a movie, where they're a little bit kind of flat in that area in some cases. But Interstellar again has emotional beats to it that work, and other ones like Dunkirk as well. So I don't know, it's an argument for both sides.
I do like that bike, though. By the way, that's why I went for the background art.
It's the bike from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, isn't it? Or something.
It's a bit Tron-like as well, but it is hilarious that, as you mentioned in your video, I think that they the robots built the bike to be ridden by humans. For why?
It'd be so good to see Terminators on them. That'll be great. Just clotheslining people. I like this shot here of the base. I like this because it's basically they've kind of retrofitted this kind of this factory for their own purpose, right? So, do you think the main building itself is what Skynet's developed, or they're just basically taken over? I think it's like they're taken over because the main complex has chairs. Terminators don't need chairs, do they?
But that's not a reason for someone like McGee not to put chairs in the movie, though, is it? I mean, robots don't need motorcycles either. But yes.
What do you think of Danny Elfman's score? Because this is very uncharacteristic of him, this type of music.
Yeah, I didn't even realise it was Danny Elfman at first.
Mm.
To be perfectly honest, I didn't really notice it, which for me is not unusual, and generally is the sign that there's nothing too wrong, at least.
It does use the Terminator theme just a little bit, like just clanging metal, you know. But it's got the main theme's that da 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 da, which is like the Marcus theme, which someone actually said to me was kind of a rip-off of some anime, I think Dragon Ball Z or something like that, in the comments years ago. I was like, really? He just completely plagiarised it, perhaps. But then again, there's a video game called Metal Gear Solid which plagiarises the theme from Speed, you know, so...
I watched Yor the other day for the first time in a while, and had never noticed before that one of the theme tunes in that is identical to the Imperial March from Star Wars. It's absolutely identical.
Really? Fucking hell.
I think it's the Imperial March.
This is all kind of... I think it's all what Nolan had contributed. But so, yeah, so the Skynet's plan is to... Yeah, as highlighted earlier, was to get Marcus to bring John Connor to Skynet so they can kill him. But then they've got Kyle Reese as well, who they kind of picked up by accident, didn't they?
Yeah, completely by chance. And there are several completely improbable turns of event that need to happen for this plot to work. So why then would he not be... So has he got a human brain or a robot brain? Do we know that?
He must still have a human brain. It's just been like, I know, it's got some ZX80 chips thrown on him or something from a Spectrum. I don't know. No, he's just got like, it's just augmented human. So which is what we see with Dark Fate, with the woman who's sent back in time to protect.
Oh, I don't remember that film at all, to be honest.
Well, you're going to watch it.
I know. I'm quite looking forward to seeing them again. Because I've never the last 3 Terminator movies I only ever saw once when they came out, and for some reason this is the only one I've got any memory of. I don't remember the other 2 at all, apart from there being a lot of scenes of Arnold making jokes about being old.
Yes, there's always old gags, isn't there? It's justify, you know. Hopefully, if they do another one, they can't have Arnold again, because you've got to come up with more excuses as to why he's so bloody old, you know.
Oh, they'll probably just digitally de-age him.
I love these ones. They've got massive chins. Like Jimmy Hill. I did like... It's also the bit where you saw John Connor break into that door, and it's got the Cyberdyne logo. So is this... what Cyberdyne had developed at the time, with humans had designed the architecture, or was it what Skynet's designed with its architecture? It's never really made clear, because you think, how would a robot, how would it perceive what it needs to design a structure, you know what I mean, to sort of fit their needs? In my mind, it would just be like when you see, I suppose, the T-800s being developed, it's like a big factory, and it's just putting things together, and it's like that film Virus, where it's just like body parts and like, you know, electronics everywhere. It's just a huge mess. But again, this is all human design, isn't it? So
you would assume so, but the thing is, there's not the internal logic of these movies of this movie anyway isn't really good enough to base that on, is there? I mean, all the evidence says, yeah, this is pre-existing, but because they wouldn't even need. I mean, once you start thinking about it, there's no end to it. Like, there doesn't even need to be any light in this room. What's the point?
Yeah. That's why it kind of worked at the beginning when they found that base. It was all in darkness, you know.
All these displays to be perceived in an analog fashion rather than digitally, which I think we were talking about in one of the RoboCop commentaries. It's another little pet peeve of mine. Why one machine is talking to another machine through, you know, in a way that only humans require. Why isn't this just a piece of digital information inserted into a chip in his head, this conversation?
Yeah. I did like the first shot when you see Marcus wake up. It did look like he's just relieved himself, you know, and seemed quite happy.
See, it reminds me a bit of Resident Evil as well, this set, this environment.
You're all going to die down here, you know. Bloody Alice crap. God, those films, I hate them. But you see this, I don't know what they would say, would you call it the original form of Skynet? Because he throws the chair at the glass, right, and it's sort of the eyes go red, and you see this kind of metallic monster's kind of face. It's a bit like, no, it's not that similar, but it's kind of in the third Matrix where the machines form, the architect, where it creates this face of a child from all the what were they called? What were those flying things they had in the Matrix? Do you remember them?
No, I've not.
What they get chased by in the future. They form this face of a child to communicate. But it's always like in these films where it has to give you a face or someone that you'd recognise, like in the film Contact, where she meets her dad on this. You know, it forms something she would recognise. But it's just, again, it's for the audience, isn't it? You know, just to sort of make things easier to follow.
In fact, doesn't the same thing happen? Another Red Dwarf reference, but that when at some point someone has to communicate with Crichton, so they take on the physical form of his creator to make it easier for him.
Oh, yes, yeah. That's when he gets crushed down into a block.
Yes.
I'm slightly annoyed. It's like getting the trash compactor. Oh, that's the bugs that suck your brains out.
There's been, I swear that Red Dwarf has influenced a lot more mainstream movies than people realise sometimes. I'm not saying that particularly, but
then Red Dwarf's is completely ripped off Alien, didn't it? Its production design.
I suppose, yeah.
Oh, inside space. Oh, he's channeling his power to make that guy's head pop, isn't he? Like in scanners.
I would have nightmares about Michael Ironside looking at me like that.
Because Ironside was considered for RoboCop, you know, but I think he had too many ideas. They were like, nope.
If you ever see him in interviews, he's really unexpectedly lovey, like a proper old school thesp, isn't he? He's not he's not the action, you know, the genre actor you think he might be.
I was so happy when he popped up in this because, you know, he's so watchable as an actor.
Yeah,
isn't
and
he
somehow he just belongs in this series. As well, he should be something in the Terminator series.
Yeah, he just needs to go. He just needs to appear in, you know, Predator or Aliens now, doesn't he?
And he's still good enough to, you know, I know he's very, very old now and quite large, but he's still good enough to be sitting behind a desk barking orders at people. It literally looks like they've sort of blurred it and shaded it out at the last minute because it was going to mean an R rating or something.
Oh, yeah. But I love how he's got the 1984 haircut. The sort of somewhat centre-parting hair. Yeah. You know, Arnie has. Great. See, there, it's the close-up there, just the uncanny valley. It's the eyes as well.
Yeah.
Gives it away.
It's not too bad, though. Really.
It's only a couple of shots you're seeing him, then he just gets his skin burnt off to reveal the endoskeleton. Also, it is a bit weird, right? Because, like, wasn't there something appears behind him as well? No, maybe I'm going a bit mad now. Sorry.
I find Arnold in this less distracting than the de-aged Harrison Ford, for example, in the new Indie movie.
Oh yeah, but that's a 20-minute sequence of a de-aged.
True,
yeah, so you're kind of spending more time with him. Yeah. And well, some shots it looks incredible, where other moments we're like, oh, okay, that's not quite as good. Down to timing, you know, how much they could spend on that sequence.
In both cases, you're doing what you absolutely shouldn't do with visual effects, and making, you know, the audience are undeniably consciously aware of the fact that is not Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, it's not like they've just sneaked a CG character in there. It's a CG character in there because they know that Arnold can't play that role or won't play that role. Same with Harrison Ford. You know immediately. You know, well, he doesn't look like that anymore. You're trying to convince people of something they already know is a lie.
Yeah. All they've done, yeah, just paid for his license, haven't they? Because he was still governor, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I wonder, do you know how much he got paid for that?
Oh, I don't know. Probably like. I'd probably guess at maybe 200,000, maybe. I don't know.
Don't worry, stars here.
I do like this. The production design here does fit within sort of somewhat of James Cameron's design of, you know, the sort of concept stuff. And even like if you look at the T2 3D ride, the sort of the entrance to it all, even though it's a little bit more white and it's more. I just love the look of Cyberdyne in number 2, where it did carry over that sort of look in the future, where it's that grey kind of look, you know, sort of fits. It's a bit more sort of clean and white with its design.
But it's not like a lab clean. There's lots of big computer banks and cooling fans and things that, you know, you can believe. The production design's great, I think. So everything is good apart from the plot, the way the plot's executed, I should say, and this lack of humanity thing that bugs me.
Yeah. Oh, that would have killed jumping on that. Jesus. So I like the stuff here with the battle with the T-800. I think is really well done, and I think this, and because we saw in the original where moments where he had movement, it was stop motion, and then you'd have very restrictive close-ups and mid-shots of, you know, Stan Winston's team holding this endoskeleton on their shoulders, and it would kind of interact in a very, you know, very basic way because you're limited in what you could do. So just having a full CG one, I mean, I don't have a problem with, because at this point in technology and CG, it's pretty much flawless. And I like the little sounds it makes as well. So it's just kind of like sort of sound effect, either to the sound of the mechanics of the machine working, or it's kind of this kind of grunting sound. This is continuity as well. Do you remember in T3 where Arnold pulls the power supply out of him and he throws it out the window and it explodes? It's the same power source.
Oh. Nuclear.
Yeah. And I do like how the Terminator uses Carl's voice, and it's sort of to surprise Connor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still falling for it. You know? It's like a lift. It's like Aliens with the lift. The Queen's going to come out.
Now that's a movie I'd watch.
This is quite good as well because, it's, again, it's a trick. It's where you go. It moves it. Good shot. You know, I think I talked about in the Robocop commentaries where things take place, not repeated locations of a factory, and again this is T1 and T2 again with the factory, T2. You know. But this can't. It just kind of fits, doesn't it, with that sort of.
I mean, to be fair, in this one, the first two, you could argue it could have ended up anywhere. But in this one, it kind of has to end up in a robot factory, doesn't it?
I think I would have got Bale to redo that line when he said, "John Connor." It's just it's too. It needs a little. He's turned up to 11 a bit too much, you know. Just dial it back a bit. Because this is, you know, he's talking to his son. No, his father, sorry.
Yeah,
so
have some respect.
You know,
it's funny, isn't it? This is one of the only bits of CG. I don't know. When the T-800 gets to the top of the stairs and turns around and sort of rotates around and walks on, it really stands out as dodgy looking to me.
You think?
I don't know if it's because at this point I anyway am far more used to seeing that endoskeleton as a Stan Winston creation rather than a CG version. So just seeing it move freely and naturally seems a bit odd somehow.
Do you know, that was really weird, where Marcus drags the Terminator off by just... He's on the floor with it, and he uses his feet to push himself really, like, quite far back into the background at top speed. It's like he's being pulled by a wire, though. It didn't really make sense.
No, there's a couple of bits in this. It stood out to me. There's a couple of bits in this sequence where he suddenly realises he's got superhuman strength and does superhuman things.
I think do you think they maybe overdid the lighting on the Terminator? It just like it's made out of glass some of the times, where it's just way too shiny.
Very
maybe?
reflective, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. The sort of, because there's a moment where he looks and pauses. You think if you isolate that shot, it would look incredible, but because of the lighting, it's going a bit too. The lighting guys have got a bit too overgenerous with it, maybe.
There's a lot going on with the lighting in this scene in general. It's flashing like crazy. There's all kinds of weird light sources and sparks and so on.
I do love how the T-800 figures out his weakness and just looks at his heart and just punches him in the chest. It's a great moment. It's really clever how that's what a Terminator would do, and it fits.
It does raise the question of why is... So if he is meant to be... If Marcus is meant to be the next generation, it would appear they're not as effective as the last generation.
Oh, that was good. This is, look at the smooth. They've kept it the same. It's the red look, but the resolution of that is so good and smooth. But I think, didn't they change it for like... No, in T3 it doesn't look as good as that. That looks far more...
I can't remember.
Like the original one, but just sort of a smoother frame rate, really.
Never mind John Connor, where's Star? The future needs Star. We're lost without her.
Could Star be the girl who dies in the first one, in the second flashback, where she throws the grenade and it's too late and she gets shot? Remember?
She's suitably useless, if so, yeah.
John! Like T2. Yeah. He sees his mum with the melty feet. He's like, get out of the way, John!
There should have been a scene of her coming to him in a dream to say, get up, John. The future needs you.
Get up, you bum!
Because Mickey loves you.
Oh, that's pretty cool. A coat of lava just falls on him. Now, were you... some of my friends who are, hardcore fans who are very hard to please with sequels, were you a bit like, roll your eyes when the Terminator scars his face to sort of keep a continuity of the opening of T2, where he's got a scar?
It's all right, isn't it? I am a bit suspicious of moments like that, but I don't think there's too many of them in this. There are...
There's callback lines, isn't there? I'll be back. Come with me if you want to live. It's Guns N' Roses song. Yeah.
But it's not too intrusive. I don't know, mate. I've probably complained about the same kind of things in just the same sense, but for some reason it doesn't bug me. Like little bits like... there's a lot of Kyle Reese learning things that he then does in the first movie. Like not having the gun taken off him by wrapping the strap around his wrist. That's a thing that Marcus teaches him that we then see him do and teach Sarah Connor.
That doesn't bother me.
No, I think that's okay. It's a bit convenient. It's a bit Star Wars, isn't it? But...
This is a moment here where the intensity of Bale's performance is needed. He's like, come on! He's screaming me to wake up, And then he just gets like, ugh. That did make me, when I first saw it, go, whoa, because you see him literally get penetrated by that piece of metal through his chest.
It's fortunate that you start robot hearts in just the same way that you start human hearts, really. Wow, even seeing that bit the second time in a couple of days, I still love it. The bit where he pops his head off.
Yeah. So now this originally, wasn't it, because John Connor was going to die in the original one, and they'd graft his face and put it on Marcus's, so the legend of John Connor would still be around, that he would still, and then Connor would essentially be a cyborg, and they'd killed off a bunch of other characters. I think they killed off her as well. They killed off a lot. I think they would have pissed people off. So yeah, I think why. I think this is during the time where Ain't It Cool News was still a thing, so it got leaked on there. Perhaps they discussed the ending, and obviously Warner Brothers were furious and had to do quickly, hastily, kind of change everything.
I don't know why they always do that. Because how many people would have read it? How many people would have cared? Was it really popular? Really?
Yeah, really popular. Yeah, so people was either they saw the feedback and people were like, "Oh, this ain't going to work. This is stupid." And pretty rightly so, because would you have wanted Christian Bale's face grafted onto Marcus?
No, that's a stupid idea. That's a really stupid. Oh, this bit can fuck right off. I've made very few notes rewatching this, but here I just wrote, that kid can fuck off. Just
look at that miniature. Oh,
there she is, star with. Oh, it's so corny and so contrived.
Oh, that is glorious. That's good effects. But when I first saw it, I thought initially, oh, they just defeated Skynet. But then it's like Connor goes, the war goes on, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So it's, sequels. Okay, just give me the laser guns, for God's sake. Laser guns. Because it just shows you that these assault rifles are useless against these Terminators. But they seem to take out the other ones okay. But killing a T-800 with an assault rifle ain't going to do anything.
So he's just. So, I mean, it is ridiculous, isn't it? So, number one, she's just done a heart transplant operation in the desert.
Very dusty.
A heart transplant operation with using a heart that's been stopped for the last 10 minutes and punched by a Terminator. And she's a vet.
See, that's continuity as well. She's a vet, like in the third one,
I mean, fine. In the future, a vet is going to be the best doctor you've got. Of course, that's going to be your medical officer, so to speak, but not necessarily capable of performing a heart transplant in a desert.
No. Did this film have any dogs in it? Like earlier on in the base, did they have a dog?
No, that's a good point.
Because they were the best at catching out Terminators, weren't they?
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Must be surrounded by German Shepherds,
It's another one of those. At least they didn't. I mean, the change they make with regards to them fighting at day and night, they actually kind of throw shade on Cameron for that, don't they? Because they even have a line about how at night it's even worse because they've got infrared. Do you remember?
Yeah.
They don't even. Not only are they fine in the day, they actually retrofit the whole mythology to say. But also that doesn't make sense anyway. So why would infrared be better than just normal cameras?
Well, because they use in Terminator 1, you see the other, I think the second flashback, you see them with the infrared looking out, don't they, with those goggles on?
But is there anything about infrared that's more effective in the dark than the light? You'd think that any means they have of hunting at night would work just as well, during the day, only there's also light for them to use. Anyway. So.
Yeah. Use Star's heart. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, bloody right.
Prep the girl with heart surgery. What?
You are going to serve a purpose in this movie if it kills me or you.
This could have become the sort of Sam Worthington trilogy, you know. If they decide to go with the thing but not graft Connor's face onto him. You'd be like, oh no, he's taken over this and now he's in Avatar.
His facial scars had stopped bleeding and looked about 3 weeks old a minute ago.
Maybe he started scratching it and made it start bleeding again. You know.
I thought that when I was watching it the other day, I really wish someone had the balls to play the MASH theme tune over that bit of the injured of him.
But it's global network. I presume because these always take place in basically America. What if like it was hidden away in Japan somewhere or China?
Well, apparently the scene at the beginning, I think it is, where the facility that Sam Worthington crawls out of. I read in some trivia somewhere that you see the coordinates on someone's like computer map or whatever, and they are coordinates in China. So it did occur to me, are they travelling a lot more than we realise, or did they just put random coordinates in?
Well, that kind of would have made it a bit more interesting if they knew it was like a lot more globe-trotting. Because, yeah, it would make sense. It would have spread itself around the globe. As he highlights at the end, that it's still a global battle. It's not just isolated to California. Silicon Valley sort of thing, you know.
But I mean, this is the way, isn't it? With post-apocalypse movies made in America, they generally are very like the number of times I've wondered what's happening in the rest of the world, because
you do, yeah, you do, yeah. I mean, it's hidden out in Australia. That's where we encounter Mad Max, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's through some of the problems we've highlighted. It's really strong production. And there's some good stuff in it. They brought some interesting ideas to the table that didn't repeat themselves like they did with Terminator 3. But it's kind of hamstrung by the sort of Skynet's master plan, which is stupid.
Yeah.
And this does have its kind of lulls. I think the lull for me was always once Marcus is taken to the base and has to escape. I always felt it's just a bit... There's some really good action there, but it's just nothing really... much story there, and if you heard in the commentary, we were either just kind of maybe run out of things to say during those little moments because there wasn't anything really to explore apart from him just escaping and just saying, you know.
That's it. Yeah, it's not like Terminator 2 is a classic example of every scene leading to the next scene, and the events of one scene being necessary in the events of the next scene. This isn't one of those movies where it's more like the last Indiana Jones, where there's a scene and it happens, and you know within the internal logic of that scene what the objective is, and so on and so on. But it doesn't really feed, you know, they don't feed into each other. They don't feed each other. They don't build on each other. It's just like, here's a scene, here's another scene, here's another scene. That the building just isn't really there somehow.
I suppose it's sort of the connective tissue between each scene isn't, you know, kind of doesn't seem natural in some places where it feels a little bit more clunky in that regard, but maybe there's stuff they've cut out. And
well, this is it, isn't it? I'd be very interested to see what the original movie could have looked like, more so than in most cases when they get changed like this, because it really does feel like there's something properly amazing in here. If it'd just been, I don't know, if the conception, if the right, you could even get away with this plot, I think, if you build in some more humanity, obviously, but some better structure of how we're getting from place to place and why we're going from place to place.
Yeah, because I think the film naturally starts out really well, I never really had a problem with that. I think it's just kind of middle act and the final wrap up where it's got some good stuff in there, but things happen to the convenience of the plot.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's its kind of flaw, where I don't know, the sort of surprises don't really work that well. But yeah, it's saying that. I mean, I feel in some cases I over nitpick in some of its story, because all it's doing is just giving you another sequel to the Terminator series, which kind of set the bar really high, thanks to James Cameron. But it's been difficult to sort of top that. But again, not trying to repeat themselves. And I think, you know, this one does have the benefit of trying to do something different. I think that's why I appreciate it a little bit more for the writers to say, we're not going to repeat ourselves. We're going to get to the war. What you want to see, it's not quite there yet. It's just the building blocks of this battle. And I think it ultimately tries to throw too much into it, I think, as well. And it's trying to focus on, because you've got, as you said earlier, with Bale being cast as John Connor, you then got to give him more screen time.
Yeah, it unbalances everything, doesn't it? I think
it does. I think that's what it inherently does. I think the plot A, which was originally Marcus, became plot B.
It's funny. There's a lot of similarities with Alien 3, and you do see this with franchises. They have a very particular sort of flow sometimes. The first movie's this, the second movie's this, the third movie's this. And in a way, this is like the third movie of a trilogy, because unlike most movie series, this has two great original movies. So it's like they had to wait a movie to start ballsing it all up. But it's like Alien 3, its greatest strength is that it does something completely different and looks really good doing it as well. And like Alien 3, the biggest problem I personally have with it is a lack of whether it's humanity or relatable humanity, or humans you care about and, you know, want to be with, rather than just characters that perform a task, that serve a purpose. It's similar in that respect.
I don't think Salvation has the depressing tone of Alien 3, where a lot of the comments we had on Alien 3 commentary, people kind of liked its depressing tone.
That's fair enough.
I think that's kind of somewhat being built up over the years, though, where I think initially people were like, and then over the years people were like, oh, I kind of like why it's doing something different. And that's with a lot of movies. I think we all, you know, base our thoughts, the success of a film, on its initial release, and it sort of gets reevaluated later on. And I think in the case of this, where I was disappointed with it, I sort of appreciated it more over time, because I was like, well, actually it was doing something a lot different, and I appreciate it was, you know, had a different vision to the other ones, and it had the balls to say, we're going to go a little bit further, not keep repeating ourselves. But then it sort of trips up, because it kind of went too far with some of its ideas that backfired, and they had to change things, and that's how you get this kind of mangled kind of story that doesn't quite, you know, what it set out to do. It kind of gets screwed up by the end due to the things being leaked. But, you know,
yeah. Have you ever read a leaked script?
No, I haven't actually. No, I was going to go, I've got 150 pages to read. I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Oh, and it's a strange thing, isn't it? I don't know why someone would want to do it.
Yeah, people don't care about being spoiled. They just want to know everything straight away, so they know more information than their friends. Often the case.
Yeah,
you know, it's that one-upmanship, and that only lasts for a couple of weeks till the film comes out. So, you know, that's the frustrating thing with recent Deadpool and Wolverine. People haven't seen it yet. I've already had it spoilt by them, by even the stars in the studio, who are just desperate to not give it a few days for people to enjoy and see it. But they've obviously, everyone's, you know, being shown all the cameos and so forth without the chance to see it themselves.
Yeah, I made the mistake of looking at the cast list of Deadpool and Wolverine and realised that's probably more of a spoiler than reading the actual screenplay.
Well, there you go. But I think reading the IMDb of this wouldn't actually spoil anything. It's just like, you know, reading. I suppose if someone had told you the ending quite vividly, you'd be like, oh no, that sounds weird. And then you see it, and it's like not what it turns out to be. But hey ho. Well, folks, that's the end of the commentary. Hope you enjoyed it. To me and Rob will be back with Alien Resurrection next, because it's going to be a month of Alien, because Alien Romulus is coming out very soon. And after that, we will continue with RoboCop. RoboCop 3. The greatest of all the RoboCops. It's in the list of. Is it in the list of so bad it's good, or it's so bad it's bad?
No, it's. But funnily enough, it was my go-to worst movie ever made until I got really deep into the bad movie thing about 10 years ago. I always considered it the worst thing I had ever seen.
That shows you your lack of watching bad movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
As people always said, Batman Robin's the worst I've ever seen. Like, well, I don't know if you haven't seen that many movies to justify it as the worst movie ever made.
Yeah, you might as well just say I've not seen many movies.
Double Dragon, the movie's worse. Christ almighty. Right, folks, take care of yourselves, and goodbye for now.